Good morning, everyone. Today's topic is exception handling and enumeration. So let's first see what an exception is. An exception is any error, condition, or unexpected behavior that is encountered by an executing program. Exceptions can be thrown because of a fault in our code or in code that we call unavailable operating system resources or unexpected condition that runtime encounters. For any logic fault in or logic, exceptions occur. In C#.NET, an exception is an object that inherits from the system.exception class. Whenever there is a runtime error, our system or CLR generates an exception instance of exception which terminates the our program abruptly and generates an exception message. An exception is thrown from an area of code where the problem has occurred. The exception is passed up the stack until the application handles it or the program terminates. So whenever any exception condition occurs in our program or runtime compile occurs, our program or application abruptly crashes or gets closed. There are two subclasses of exception class: system exception class and application exception class. In system exception class, we have number of classes like out of bound exception class, arithmetic exception. So let's see first the example of exception. I've written a program beforehand to show exceptions. So here I have taken two input as A and B from the user on the through console, and they are of integer type. And then I have tried to divide that and store that value in C and print the output of C. And we all know that the divisor cannot be 0. So let's see what exception our program creates when we try to divide it by 0. So let's take our first number as 100 and second number as 0. So we can see that our program abruptly closes and a message is shown: expected exception unhandled, system dot divide by 0 exception, and a message is shown: attempted to divide by 0. This message is due to the an instance thrown by the CLR, and that is of class divide by 0 exception. It is one type of exception. Let's see another exception class. We know we have to take both our input as integer, but I will take second as string and try to pass and then see what happens. We can see again we get an error and our program abruptly shut down, closes, and this time the exception is of type format exception and message is being shown: input string was not in correct format. and we have one more exception in this program. We can create one more exception or error by overflowing our integer value. Let's take first as 100, then second number as, and then let's run our program. We can see, and again an exception has been created, which is an unhandled exception and is of type overflow exception. Value was either too large or too small for an int 32. So these are all system exceptions, and we use application exception to, by inheriting this class application exception and create our user defined or custom type of exceptions. So to prevent our program for uh, abruptly closing or crashing, we use exception handling during our for writing in our programs for handling our exceptions or abruptly closing and showing user friendly messages on the screen, not program friendly. So exceptions in the application must be handled to prevent crashing of the program and unexpected result log exceptions and continue with other functionalities. C# provides built-in support to handle the exceptions by using try, catch, and finally block. We use three keywords to handle exceptions: try, catch, and finally. In try block, any suspected code that may raise exceptions should be kept inside a try block. During the execution, if an exception occurs, the flow of control jumps to the first matching catch block, and the catch block handles the exception. It is an exceptional exception handler block where we can perform some actions such as logging and auditing an exception. The catch block takes a parameter of exception type using which we can get details of the exception. In finally block, the finally block is always executed whether an exception is created or not. Usually a finally block is used to release resource, for example, our database connection, any stream or file objects that are opened are closed in finally block. The syntax of for exception handling is in try block, we write statements which will cause runtime error or statements which does not require ex which does not require execution when the runtime error occurs. In catch block, we write statements which should be executed only when there is a runtime error. And then finally, all those statements which must be executed whether an exception is raised or not are written. So let's the program we have written earlier, we have seen earlier, and try to implement here our exception handling by using try, catch, and finally keyword. We have seen previously that when exceptions occur in our program, the program unexpectedly or abruptly closes, and similarly will our application will do. And the part of programs which were which do not have any error are also not run. So let's use try. So we have seen that while converting integer type to string, one error has been shown, and one error was due to overflow, and one was due to division by 0. So we will keep our block our code from this point to this point under try block. And for a single try, we can have multiple catch block because there may be multiple number of exceptions. So we will use divide by zero exception, and we will create an object reference of divide by zero exception class ex1. And we can use as the exception class has many properties, and one of its properties is message, which is a read only property, and virtual property which can be overridden also. We will write use that reference to get an predefined message. Another exception we can get, we know, is of type format exception. Create its reference. We can also give user defined message. Music, so that user can understand better. And we can have more than two exceptions, or three we have seen, and more than three also. For including all other types of exception, we use of type exception class, which is a parent class of all exceptions. Here we don't have any database connection or file string, so we will only print a statement. So let's create exceptions which we have raised earlier. So first exception which we have earlier created was 100. We have taken first number as 100 and then tried to divide it by 0. So we can see now the exception message is shown in the program itself, and our program or application is not abruptly closed or crashed. And we can see the message that attempted to divide by 0, which is a system defined message, and our finally block which which is compulsory to be executed, and other statements after the try catch block which was not being executed previously is also being executed. That is end of the program. Console write dot write line statement is also being executed. Let's try to run other exceptions. And another was for format, where we have defined user defined message. So we can see as we gave first exception, then only our exception message was being shown. Input should be numeric. This was the message defined by user for format exception, and the finally block is also executed. The console write dot write line statement, and the line, yeah, or statements after the exception is also being executed, which is outside of the type catch block end of the program. Let's see. Let's get an exception for which we have not defined any type of exception, which is form, which is overflow exception. We have not included. Let's try to divide 100 by overflowing or integer type. We can see again a message was exception was catched. Value was either too large or small or too small for int 32, the user defined message, and finally block is also executed, and the statements after try catch finally block is also being executed, and thus our program or application is not terminated abruptly. Let's see without exception. And we can see when there is no exception, then also the finally block is executed and the program runs as in sequence. Thank you. And now I pass to Kamini for explaining enumerate, enumerator or enumeration enum type. Over to you, Kamini.
Thank you, yeah, thank you, Nikhil. Mike, um, everybody can see my screen.
Yes, Kamini, it is
Is it
visible.
visible? Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, it is visible.
Okay. So today's topic will talk about enum in C sharp. So the content in enum we will know what is enum and how we use inside a class, and what is enum value, and we will also see enum in a switch statement. So first of all I'm going to say what is enum. So we'll talk about what is enum. An enum is a special class that represent a group of constant. Like in C sharp, an enum or enumeration type is used to assign constant name to a group of numeric integer value. It makes constant value more readable. For example, like weekdays, Monday, Tuesday, it is more readable. Like if we use like zero numeric value like 0, 1, 2, and so on. So and which is more readable than referring to a day in a week. Okay, so to create enum, we use keyword enum and separate enum items with a comma. Alright, and okay. And here is a questions why we use enum. So we use enum when you have a value that you are that is not going to change in the applications, like number, yeah, days, or you can say color, a deck of a card that aren't going to change in any in an application. So in that situation, we can use enum as and I will explain in program in detail. And here is a syntax that how we use enum. What is the sequence we use in enum? Like first of we can use a modifier also. So after modifier we use keyword enum and then enum name. And here I have written low, medium, and high in this. So I will show one example of it. Yeah. So as I already showed you that in label I have written low, medium, and high. And in main method we are going to create an object and then we will call this low, medium, and high, which we are mentioning this. So it's just a simple example. I just so it will show the medium because we are called the medium. So here we want to call high or large, just we have to call, put a label dot low so that it will call the low. Again we'll so it's just a simple example where we calling the enums values. And and now how we use enums inside a class. uh, That is the same question, same example which I have shown earlier. And inside a class, there is another example which in which I will show you in detail. So we will now see what is enum value. So by default, the first enum value with start with 0 and second value will be 1 and so on. So enumerations or enum is a value data type in C Sharp, and it is mainly used to assign the name or string value to integral constant. So to make a program easy to read and maintain. So here's one like I've already told that like enum month, if we say so January, February month, it's not going to, it will be the constant in our application. So beside using January, February, we can use at to be more readable. So we can use numeric value like 1, 2, and 3 and so on. So then I will show one example of it. Um, in and there's a class program in which I have used enum values a month, and I've written the all values of month, and it will internally it will assign a numeric value. Like if we run this, it will show 3 because we have if we change over here, we can just like it will show 1 or 0 as we as in our value start with 0. Right? And the another is how we use enum in switch statement. An enum keyword can be used with if statement, switch statement, iterations. Enum constant are public static, and finally by default. Enums constant are accessed using dot syntax, as I already shown that we can use enum name dot label, or we have like a level dot low, or level dot high, or level dot medium, and so on. So in this way, we can use enum. Mm, An enum class can have attributes and method in addition in constant. So enum comes in two types, that is string and numeric, and we will discuss in the briefly in data structure. So, so now I will show you an example in how we use enum in switch statement. It is the same example, like there is a enum level, and we put low, medium, and high. And in main method, we just created an object, myvar, and we just call the medium. So it will choose the like it will write level medium. So if we change over here, so it will show the different. If we choose high, it will take case level console dot write line high level. So it will. No, there is one example where I have will tell you how we use in class inside a class. Uh, and here I have created one class parameter, and as I can see that we can use modifier in enum also. So here I've used enum, and there is a enum name that is saved, and we just pass the value that is of enum, that is circle and square. So and there is another member function which in which I have passed the integer value and shape as one, which take the value to initialize the side or radius of a circle or square. So in this, we will check if S1 is equal to 0 or 1. And if it is 0, then it will display the circumference of the circle. And if it is 1, it will display the perimeter of the square. So in that case, we also use enum. And in the main function, we just call the we call the method. First, we created an object, and we have created. We've called the this method query or member function, and where we have passed parameter dot shape dot circle, uh, uh, which will show the circumference of the circle. And there is another perimeter dot shape dot square, which is display the square of uh, perimeter of the square. So we will run. So it will show the circumference of the circle, which is 18.84, and perimeter of the square, which is 16. So in this way, we can use enum. So this is a topic from my side, and this is a basic. So and this is the end of this session.
Okay, thank you, Kamini. I hope anyone has so many questions or anything that people want to add based on their
Uh,
experience coding. Feel free to do.
uh,
I think no questions. So thank you, Kamini.
yeah, thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, yes.
You said that enumeration that starts from zero. Can we also do some editing and can we do it from one, like I plus one equals to, and shift the position to from one? Can we do that?
Mm, like I don't understand your questions. Can you
You said the position for enumeration starts from zero, right?
zero? Yes, zero to one.
So can we do some editing in the programs, and like the editing is done by us, like I plus one, say, and the value of I is zero, and we just added one to shift the position to one. Can we do that?
Uh, See, when in applications, if we use constant, names, then it will be constant. It will not change. Like already said, we use like month as a numeric. So month will not change. Like we cannot change like month, right? We can only change like if there is a January, February. So we can only assign the January to zero. We can assign February to one. So in that situation, we use enum. I hope I
Okay.
cleared your question.
Okay, yes.
Doubt.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
Thank you,
Thank
guys. I hope
Okay.
this session is good from the last session of mine.
It was. It was.